Hello everyone, how's it going? And welcome to my Wild Rift tier list for patch 3.2. This is all done on Wild Rift Fire. All the builds have been updated on this website as well for patch 3.2, and I also updated the tier list recently. So I thought I'd do a video to run through my thoughts on the tier list. Obviously, as always, we're going to go through every single role in the game from Baron all the way down to support. If there's any champions that you feel like could maybe go into a different position, or maybe feel like can go up or down the tier list, please do let me know down in the comments. I do read all the comments, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more Wild Rift content coming for patch 3.2. So let's first start off in the Baron lane. There's been a few little changes in the Baron lane. In the S plus tier, we still have quite a few champions. I moved Renekton up to the S plus tier now. I feel like Renekton as a solo queue champion is very, very strong. He has really insane early game. The items you can build as well with Blade the Rune King and also Black Cleaver are two amazing items in the game right now. And as Renekton, you can really be the solo carry for your team. Same with Set as well. Set is still really strong, still up in the S plus tier with Camille and Darius. Set has great team fight potential. His laning phase is really strong. You have the true damage as well from your Haymaker on top of the shield. The ultimate is great for team fights as well. And again, it's just another champion that really does well with some of the great items, even items like Hullbreaker as well. You can go Hullbreaker on Set with Demolish as well, being so strong at the moment. It's a really, really disgusting combo for Set, and you obviously get a lot of attack speed and a lot of damage. Camille as well. I mean, there's not really much else to say about Camille. I say this every single patch. She has mobility, she has engage, she has disengage, she has team fight potential, she has split push potential with like Hullbreaker and Demolish. Champion is just completely disgusting. Has lockdown as well with the ultimate. Just overall, probably the most disgusting champion in the game right now. To be honest, Camille could probably just be solo up in the S plus tier just because how strong she is. And I'm really surprised that she didn't get nerfed at all in this patch. Darius as well is still really strong. Most of the time with Darius, you want to be in team fights. You can split push with Darius a little bit. I wouldn't really recommend it. But Darius is still really, really strong in team fights. And is, yeah, still really good for getting resets. And obviously the item build and everything has not really changed with Darius. There are a few S champions that could potentially move up into S plus tier. Fiora, I'll talk about first. I moved her down to S. Ever since her nerf that she got before, people thought at first that like the nerf wasn't too bad, but her nerf is actually starting to hit her more and more now, especially because there's a lot of hyper carries, a lot of long range hyper carries in the game right now. And a lot of them are really, really strong, especially AD carries. Fiora does struggle a lot to get on top of them because the lunge range distance has been reduced, and the the hit ratio and everything has been reduced as well. So Fiora's moved down a little bit for me. I still think she can be, she does have solo carry potential. She's still really strong in the laning phase. She can't obviously poke as much with her first ability anymore, but again, she's still really, really strong. Like I said, there's those champions that can probably move it up into S plus tier. Jace is really, really good. Jace doesn't really make full benefit of like Hullbreaker or even Divine Sunderer, but he's still really, really strong with the items that he can build. Manamune, Black Cleaver, Serrader's Grudge as well, then Death Stance. You can go for like a more tanky Jace build, but he's still really, really strong. The poke damage that you get is insane. His melee form is still really, really strong. And overall, just a really, really insane champion. Garen, super easy to play. Pretty much just building full tank. You can build like Black Cleaver and other items on him. You can build Hullbreaker on Garen if you really want to. You saw it a little bit in competitive play. But with Garen, just really easy to play. Really, really tanky. If you haven't played Baron lane a lot, definitely recommend picking up Garen because he's probably the easiest Baron laner to play. Riven and Irelia, both of these champions are very, very strong. Irelia especially can definitely move up into the S plus tier. The reason why she's down the S tier is just because how difficult she really is to play. You have to make sure that you get your resets on your first ability, which sometimes can be really difficult. You have to make sure you land all your skill shots as well, like your ultimate and your third ability. If you don't, if you're new to Irelia, then you might not feel that she's as strong at first. But to be honest with you, she can still be really, really strong. If you understand how to play her and if you understand her limits, she's probably one of the best Baron laners in the entire game right now. And for AD carries, she's just really annoying to deal with. I think I ban her every single time now in high elo. But this is more of like a general solo queue tier list, not just for high elo. I think it was just for high elo, then Irelia would definitely be up there. Riven as well, sort of the same thing. Riven is not as difficult to play as Irelia, but still can be quite difficult, making full use of her passive. She has a lot of mobility though with all of her abilities. A lot of one-shot potential, great team fight potential. Her split push is not really there, not really as good as say like like a Garen or Irelia or Fiora or someone like that, but she is still really, really strong. Being able to get into the team fights, use her ultimate, use all of her mobility to easily get into the backline can really, really help out your team. Wukong, I still think is super underrated. I think he's really good with Divine Thunder and Black Cleaver with that combo. He's really good during team fights. He can split push as well because his first ability can do a little bit of extra damage towards the towers. And he also gets attack speed from his third ability. So yeah, still think he's really, really strong. And Shen, oh my god, Shen, this champion is absolutely disgusting, honestly. Shen is split push champion, team fight champion, pretty much just like a tank version of Camille. Obviously doesn't have the same lockdown because you can miss your taunt, for example. But the way with Shen is that you can just build like Sunfire into Hullbreaker, Divine Sunderer, them 3 items. You just go into a side lane, you split push the whole time. If you need to get into a team fight, boom, just use your ultimate. Really, really easy to get into team fights. You can split push and always create that side wave control or side wave pressure. Always try and get inhibitor towers. Demolish as well on Shen is really strong right now with Hullbreaker. Yeah, just insanely strong right now. Really, really good champion. Gragas, you kind of build hybrid in the Baron lane. Rod of Ages kind of into full tank, but you can, not full tank, sorry, full AP. You can build them a little bit more tanky if you want to. Not as strong. He does struggle a lot against the bruisers in the Baron lane. That's why you normally see Gragas in the mid lane. Because, like I said, most of the time he struggles a lot against all the bruisers, especially in the early game up in the Baron lane. So that's why he's not any higher. Olaf, you've seen a little bit of Olaf in competitive in the Baron lane. I think he's just a better jungler than a Baron laner, to be honest with you. He can do quite well against some champions. Like Darius, he's not that bad against. Set as well. All these sort of champions that you can use your ulti to kind of stop any of the crowd control. Same with Renekton as well. And you also have a lot of healing with Olaf to kind of sustain through all of the damage from like Darius and Set, etc. I just don't think he's as good as the other champions above in the Baron lane. Pantheon has a lot of one-shot potential, has a lot of roaming potential as well. His early game is very, very strong. He does fall off quite a bit though. So you do have to be careful with that. You do have to try and get an early lead with Pantheon. Use your ultimate to roam around the map and try and make plays. But again, same sort of build as Renekton. Blader and King, Black Cleaver, still really, really strong. Graves with Hullbreaker with this crit build. Still can work in a Baron lane. Again, I think he's a better jungler than a Baron laner. But he still can work in the Baron lane. He could do quite well against bruisers as well. Because he's more of a ranged champion. He can use the kite and he can use the dashes with the smoke screen and all of his other abilities to just kite back, deal a lot of damage, and try and get a few kills. Jax with lethal tempo is completely disgusting. Again, another champion I think is better in the jungle than Baron lane. But Jax, the problem with Jax is that he does struggle a lot in the early game, because with Jax you kind of want to farm up as much as possible, get 2 or 3 items, and then go into team fights, because early game Jax is just not really that strong. That's why Jax jungle is quite popular at the moment, because you can just farm through the jungle. You don't have to worry about any sort of, invades, because no one invades in Wild Rift in the jungle. So it's really easy to play these passive junglers like Fiora, like Jax, like Jace, for example, that you can just farm up the jungle, take a few, get a few items, and then go into team fights for the objective. So that's why someone like Jax jungle is really popular at the moment in Wild Rift, because no one invades, no one really risks it, because it's too risky to go for an invade, because if you die or something, then you just give so much gold over. It's just a bit of a misery. Akali, again, another champion like Jax that could struggle in the early game. Akali might be better with fleet footwork now, because you get the energy restore, but I still think Conqueror is still quite good on her. But again, if you're in a losing matchup, I think that fleet footwork is better if you feel like that you might struggle a bit in the laning phase. But Conqueror is still an amazing rune on her, because you're using so many abilities. You're spamming your first ability and auto attacks a lot. Stack Conqueror really, really easily. You can just get a lot of extra damage, but you can play fleet footwork in a losing situation. On to A tier. I've maybe underrated Singed a little bit. I think Singed mid lane is better than Singed Baron lane. Again, kind of same situation as others above, where he just has better matchups in the mid lane than in the Baron lane. Same with Gragas as well. Because with Singed, you just want to walk up, push the wave, and then look to roam around the map. You can't really do that in Baron lane. Baron lane, you only have one long lane. You can't really roam anywhere except for mid lane. And most of the time, when you walk up to try and clear the wave, you're just going to be dealt a lot of damage by like Set, Camille, Renekton, all these bruisers. But most of the time in the mid lane, you're going to be against mages. Really easy to just walk up to the wave, clear it with your poison, use your fleet footwork as well to stay healed up, and then you can use that advantage you get through mid lane to roam around the map. Use your pro spell, roam around the map, and try and make plays. So that's why, in my opinion, that Singed Baron lane is still not as strong as Singed mid. but he still can work. Kennen's still Kennen. Nothing's really changed with Kennen. Quite good in team fights. Other than that, doesn't really do too much. You can just get completely dove on by any one of these bruisers and just get completely one shot. Tanks in the game right now, like Mundo and Malphite, are not very strong at all, because they are quite difficult to play, and it's quite difficult to play at the moment because of Divine Sunderer. Divine Sunderer is really, really strong. I don't know why Jarvan doesn't have a icon next to his name. It's Conqueror. I don't know why he doesn't have an icon next to his name. I'll have to check that out. But yeah, Mundo and Malphite, if you're against any champion that builds Divine Sunderer, you're just basically screwed, because Divine Sunderer does % health damage, and also most of the time bruisers in the barrel lane also go Blade of Rune King. She's got Blade of Rune King, Divine Sunderer against tanks, can't really do too much. But Malphite's still really good in team fights. You can build him a little bit of AP if you want to. I've been seeing AP Malphite a little bit, but Dr. Mundo in general is really good against AP champions, but AP champions are just not in the meta at the moment. If AP champions become more meta, then Dr. Mundo will definitely rise up the tier list, because Dr. Mundo is really good against a lot of crowd control and also against a lot of AP damage. Jarvan Baron Lane is basically not really a thing anymore. Not really strong. It was just strong before because it was summon area and you can poke a lot, but to be honest, not really a thing anymore. Nasus with Divine Sunderer, Hullbreaker, and also Demolish in the game as well now. Still can work, still can be pretty strong. He's still a pretty useless champion though, to be fair. In team fights, he can't really offer too much. You just have to split push and kind of hope for the best, I guess. But Nasus is not like S+ tier like I've seen some people do it, or S tier or something like that. You know, he is easy to play, but he takes a long time to scale up. He's really easy to kite. You know, if you're against like a Nami or a Brom or someone like that, you basically can't play the game because you don't have any mobility. It's really hard to get on top of the AD carries. In the B tier, we have the two other lethal tempo champions, Tryndamere and Kayle. I did play a Kayle game, if you guys saw on YouTube. It was my first lethal tempo game. But again, Kayle was the weakest champion in the early game. And if you make one small misstep, and I mean one small misstep, you probably saw in my gameplay as well, you just die instantly, and it's just completely game over. So yeah, Kayle's not really that strong. Same with Tryndamere as well. Again, really sucks in the early game, but if you can scale up, both of these champions, if you can scale up and if you can get a few items with both of them, honestly, they can be really, really good. They're really good late game champions. And then Teemo's Teemo. Teemo's just, yeah, whatever. Teemo is indeed Teemo. Right. On to the jungle. So jungles change around a little bit, obviously, with some of the changes to the jungle, and also to control wards being a thing now. Being able to see invisible targets like Evelynn, which is why Evelyn's moved down for me, because control wards are really easy to get, especially in the early game, and you can just use it to your advantage. Use control wards in the lane or in the bushes in the jungle, and you can always spot Evelynn all the time. So that's why Evelyn's moved down for me. She's not as strong as what she was before. Other than that, I mean, mostly everything has kind of stayed the same, to be honest. I think there's small little movements here and there, like Rengar's moved down because of the nerfs and everything. But in the S+ tier, Lee Sin and Kha'Zix are still both up there. Lee Sin is still a really nice champion to play in the early game. You can get an early game advantage, and you most likely will with Lee Sin, with all of his mobility. If you do make use of his mobility, make use of his early game damage, he's really strong. Kha'Zix with his assassination potential, his isolation potential as well, especially when he's skirmishing in the early game. Or you can full clear jungle if you want to as well. Sorry, I need to take a drink. You can full clear jungle as well if you want to, because being able to full clear jungle with Kha'Zix is really important to get your first evolve for your Q upgrade, and you can look to try and, you know, use fights after that. More of a scaling champion though, Kha'Zix, in early game. You want to get a few items and a few evolves, and then in team fights is really easy. You're kind of like cleanup crew, so you're waiting until the team fight happens, and then you're jumping in for the cleanup crew, trying to deal damage and trying to get your resets on your jump. And then Olaf is just a completely disgusting jungler. You can just farm up really easy. He's super healthy in the jungle as well. He never really loses any health, and when you get to team fights as well against Olaf, he's just so hard to deal with. Runs towards you with Ragnarok. No CC controls him at all. If you pair him up with a Lulu, a Yuumi, a Nami, anything like that to give him extra attack speed or anything, you're just done. And if you give Olaf an early game lead, you're completely done. Same with the next two champions as well, to be fair, in S tier. If you give Jackson early game lead, again, another bruiser that's completely disgusting. You're seeing the kind of pattern at the moment that most of these champions that I say are broken are bruisers. That's because they are broken. Even though they added lethal tempo to the game and everything, bruisers are still broken. What a surprise. Yeah, Jax, again, I've already mentioned in Barrel Lane. farm really easy in the early game, get a few items. You're not going to be under any pressure. And when you get a few items, you can just jump easily onto the AD carry, and it's really easy to kill them, especially lethal tempo now as well. With Trinity Force buffed, everything else really, really nice. Irelia is quite a good jungler, been quite a popular jungler recently as well. Again, one of them junglers that you can just easily farm through the jungle. You don't have to worry about any invades in the early game, because this is kind of where the junglers can struggle a little bit, is they're not as strong in the early game as what they are in the mid or late game once you get a few items. So again, you just farm through the early game, really easy to play, and then you can just go into team fights afterwards. But again, Irelia is kind of difficult to play compared to the other S+ tier champions. Fiora as well, again, same as Irelia and Jax, farm in the early game, scale up, get your items, and then carry in the late game. Camille's actually really good in the jungle because of her mobility, and also a ganking potential with her ultimate. You can do a full clear jungle if you really want to, get to level 5, then use your ultimate to easily gank a lane. And then even if you ultimate someone, even if they try and flash away, they can't flash away, and you can most of the time get a guaranteed kill. Now, the really nice thing now about jungle is that the dragon doesn't spawn until 5 minutes. That means these champions like Camille, Vi, that want to rush and get level 5 as soon as possible and try and gank a lane to get their advantage, you can do that now. Because most of the time when you use your ultimate, you'll have enough time to get your ultimate back again for that first dragon of the game. So it's quite nice. So Camille and then Vi as well, same thing. Rush level 5, go to a lane, use your ultimate. If you can get a kill, happy days. If you can't, you'll probably get a summoner spell anyway. So you're always going to get an advantage with Vi using the ultimate. And then your ultimate be back up again during the dragon fight. So it's really, really nice. Xin Zhao's really good jungle as well. Really, really good for skirmishing. Xin Zhao, you go like Black Cleaver, Divine Sunderer, completely disgusting champion. His disengage is really good as well, and he's really, really hard to deal with for these, you know, long range AD carries, because with Xin Zhao and his ultimate, you need to be in pretty much melee range of him to deal damage, because if you hit him outside of the radius that he has, then you're not going to deal any damage to him at all. Morgana, fastest jungle clear in the entire game right now. Really, really strong. I mean, to be honest, Morgana probably could be S+ tier, but I just don't think she has the same really carry potential as like Lee Sin, Kha'Zix, and Olaf. It's like, yes, she can clear the farm, clear the jungle really quickly. Yes, she can get a few items, but she doesn't really have that carry factor. You know, you don't really see Morgana as a carry. You see Morgana as more of a utility sort of mage, but she can still carry with, you know, Dark Binding and also the ultimate. Nunu, really, really good at securing objectives, really good at roaming around the map and trying to get early ganks off. That most of the time what you need to do with Nunu is try and get early ganks off. And again, kind of the same thing with like the whole dragon situation. 5 minutes after dragon is completely fine for Nunu. So then you'll be able to roam around the map with your snowball. You can clear the jungle really easily, stay healthy as well, which is quite nice. And then Gragas, he can struggle a little bit in the jungle now because he doesn't have the extra healing from blue buff, but you do have your passive for healing, so it's normally not too bad. And Graves as well. Graves is really good. You can go for like full crit Graves. I've seen like Stormraiser, Bloodthirster, IE, Mortal Reminder, really, really strong build. Or you can go for like Black Cleaver if you really want to as well, depending on your team comp. Insanely strong, super healthy in the jungle. You can easily kite jungle camps as well with Graves, because your auto attacks knock back jungle camps. So really easy to just solo start the red buff if you really want to, or solo start the blue buff. It'll take them a little bit longer to get red buff and blue buff now. Same with all these champions really. It'll take them a lot longer to get red and blue buff because of the HP buffs to jungle camps. But yeah, Graves still really, really strong. Evelynn, I already mentioned, her invisibility is not going to be as important now because control wards are now in the game, but she's still really strong. She still has that carry potential. If you can dodge around the wards, then you'll be able to easily get into a lane. Most of the time, you're probably doing lane ganks now with Evelynn and not ganking through the jungle, because most of the time through the jungle, there's going to be a lot of control wards, so everyone will pretty much see you every single time. And the A+ tier, you can see that everything's crammed up in the S and A+ tier. That's because I don't feel like there's a lot of difference between a lot of these at the moment, except for like the bottom six. Bottom six all completely suck. But after that, you know, everything A+ and above, you can honestly play and all work completely fine. Jarvan, really good lockdown, really good early game ganks. Again, can stay healthy through the jungle as well. Is really, really good. Rengar nerfed, so not that good anymore. I think got nerfed by like 6 AD in the early game. So not only did the jungle camps get buffed by health, but now Rengar's been nerfed by 6 AD. So it's going to take him a long, long time to clear through the jungle now. Wukong, even though they've nerfed his jungle so many times, still really good in the jungle. Still really healthy because of his clone. excuse me, and he has great team fight potential as well. So that's the main thing. His team fight potential with Wukong is really, really strong and really, really nice. Pantheon more for early game ganks. You don't really want to farm as much with Pantheon. You want to try and gank as much as possible with that point and click stun that you have. Then try and get advantages in lane. Try and use your damage and your spear and everything else to try and get an early game advantage. Jace is kind of similar to like Fiora, Irelia and Jax, where you can just farm in the early game really easily. His skirmishing is probably the best out of all them bruisers, to be fair, just because his melee form is so strong. And also you can use your range form as well to poke them to start off the fight. So you can use like EQ range form to poke, use your W, switch to melee form, jump on top of them and do a lot of damage. Like I said, probably the best in terms of any early game in terms of skirmishes, but doesn't really have the you know, doesn't have any sort of, no, I guess like crowd control or any way to really get onto the back line really easily, where like Irelia, Jax, Fiora and Camille can. Whereas Jace, you feel like you have to go through the front line to get to the back line, which sometimes can be a little bit difficult. Riven with all our mobility is still really strong, still really good jungler, still really, really popular. I definitely recommend to play her if you do enjoy her. She can stay healthy through the jungle because of her shield buff as well. And again, yeah, all her mobility is really, really nice. Echo is an interesting one. I feel like for me, Echo is just super squishy in the early game. I mean, his early game, I'm pretty sure he has like the lowest base health out of any champion in the entire game right now. I can probably put money on that because his early game, his health is just so low. I mean, most of the time with Echo jungle, you start W anyway. So you can get the shield and you can also do more damage to low health targets. But even so, you know, he takes so long to clear the jungle. But if you do scale with Echo, he can still be really strong. And as I said, I think he's still better than the likes like Tryndamere, Master Yi and all that sort of stuff as well. Yeah, Echo, not really too strong, in my opinion. He does do a lot of damage though. And if you can get an early game lead, if you get that damage, you're like Luden's Echo, Death Cab and Lichbane, then he is he's really, really good. Tryndamere, Master Yi, not really too much to say about these two champions. Again, whole lethal tempo thing with Master Yi and Tryndamere. If you want like a hyper carry, late game hyper carry, you can play both of these, but they're really easy to kite. But at the same time, they're really easy to play. So if you want easy champions to play that you can maybe carry with, then I would definitely recommend pick these two. B tier is Rammus and Shyvana. I don't know why, but every single time I have a Rammus in my game, they always go Thornmail, Wit's End. Even if they're against full AD team, they just go Thornmail, Wit's End. They just go the standard build every single time. It's like the default build. It really annoys me because I see Rammus is just first time Rammus and they just go default build. It's really annoying. And Shyvana's still, again, not really that strong because she's really easy to kite and dragons at the moment are a little bit delayed. And also, yeah, so that means she doesn't get her power spike as often. And then Dr. Mundo and Amumu, there's not really much to say about them too, to be fair. Dr. Mundo is just not really good in jungle anymore because the way he got reworked a couple of months ago now. And Amumu's just Amumu. Amumu you just can't do anything at all with, unfortunately. You can still carry with Amumu, you know, double bandage toss, Curse the Sand Mummy, all of this as well. You can still carry with Amumu. I'm not saying that any low tier champions you can't carry with, but he is not that good. Onto the mid lane. Again, I could have changed a few things. I think there is potential to change a few things as well. Sorry, excuse me. But yeah, Diana and Karma, in my opinion, are still two of the strongest. Especially with Karma, even though she got nerfed, I still think mid lane Karma is still really strong because of all the shielding, the crowd control she offers, and also her Q still does a lot of damage. Her first ability still does a lot of damage, even though it got nerfed. So I still think Karma is insanely strong. And Dinah as well, a lot of team fight potential, can struggle a little bit in the early game, but when you get to, you know, the team fights, if you can use your first ability and your ultimate to get resets on your third ability, so you can keep dashing around and keep doing a lot of damage, then she's really, really nice to play, and she does do a lot of damage. Irelia honestly can move up into S+ as well. Irelia has some really, really good matchups in mid lane. If you can get an early advantage with Irelia, which most of the time you can, because you're going to be using your dashes to reset from minions, and then you can use that attack speed to get on top of enemy champions, land your stun, and it's just really, really nice to play Irelia in the early game. Like I said, does really well against all of these assassins in the mid lane, also the mages as well, because there's not really much you can do as a mage when you're getting jumped on by an Irelia in the early game. And yeah, it's just trying to make sure you get that early game advantage you can scale. Katarina, another champion as well, that could probably move up into S+ tier. Quite easy to play as long as you survive in the early game. you just keep getting keep getting resets and resets and resets, and she is quite disgusting. But if you're against someone that understands how Katarina works and doesn't use all their crowd control before Katarina ultis, then you do lose quite a lot of your damage, and you can get crowd control chained quite easily if you do get ultimate, if you do get CC'd in your ultimate. Zed as well. Zed's still really, really strong as an assassin. Does get countered quite easily by stasis. So if you're against Zed just by stasis, and when he ultis you can just stasis, really, really easy to do, to be honest with you. But there is opportunities for Zed to carry, especially with his roaming potential as well. Same with Twisted Fate, really. Same thing with the roaming potential with Twisted Fate. He has some long range gold cards as well. He's more of a utility mid laner than really dealing a lot of damage. But he still can be really useful with Destiny. Same with Zed as well. Zed can roam around the map quite easily to get a few kills if you need to. Ziggs throwing bombs, dealing a lot of damage at range. Ziggs still does probably the most damage in the entire game right now. Honestly, if they did stats with the overall damage per month of every single champion, I honestly think Ziggs will be up there as one of the highest. Because Ziggs is, I don't know, this champion's disgusting. Obviously can struggle a lot against assassins. Sorry, against assassins and against champions that can dive on top of you. But, most of the time you want to just stay back, throw your bombs, do a lot of damage, and then that's pretty much it. Galio in the mid lane as well did get buffed quite a bit in terms of his AP ratio. His taunt did get nerfed quite a lot. But I still think Galio is really, really strong. Just because of his ultimate, you can still get into pretty much anywhere on the map whenever you want to. Kind of like a Shen ulti in a way. You still have a lot of crowd control. You still do a lot of damage with your abilities. And I still think he's really good. Yasuo again is probably another champion that can move up into S+ tier. I think Yasuo, you don't build Sorry Charge Blade on him anymore. You go for this Storm Razor, Blade Ring King IE build. And again, it's like that Storm Razor plus IE combo, which I always talk about from AD carries, that makes them really, really strong. Kind of the same reason what makes Yasuo really strong right now. But is really, really hard champion to play, to be fair. I wouldn't recommend first time in Yasuo because you'll probably go 0-10, like the memes that you see online all the time with Yasuo. So wouldn't recommend it if you're first time in Yasuo, but if you understand how he works, then he can be really, really good. Ahri mid lane as well, really easy to play, really easy to use, really safe to play as well with her ultimate. Obviously before level 5 it can be a little bit of a struggle, but once you get access to level 5, really, really easy to just walk up, play safe. And then if you do get any danger, you've got 3 dashes to dash away, or if you want to engage and go forward, you've got 3 dashes to engage and go forward. Really easy champion, really good pick potential as well with her charm. You can combo that with other abilities. Really nice champion to play. Orianna's more of a scaling mid laner, kind of like Ziggs. Her early game is not really too strong, but when you scale, when you get a few items like Ludens, Archangels, Deathcat, Void Staff, once you get them 4 items, she does a bucket load of damage. It's crazy, with shockwaves, with all of the poke that she has as well, with her QW combo, with her first ability, second ability combo. Again, like I said, on top of shockwave and shield and everything as well. Again, it's just a pretty crazy champion. And Gragas is kind of the same as Irelia. Gragas, didn't mean to click on him. Gragas is another champion like Irelia that has a lot of better matchups in the mid lane against these mages, because Gragas won't be put under any threat. The problem with Gragas in lane phase sometimes is that when you get put under threat by these bruisers, they can walk up to you, they can do a lot of damage with you, and Gragas can't really do too much against that. But when you're against these mid lane mages, you don't really have that kind of worry that they're going to walk up to you and do a lot of damage to you. Because most of the time they're scaling into mid and late game. They're going to be building tier, they're not going to be doing a lot of damage. And that means that Gragas can stay in mid lane, farm with his first ability, and get as many items as possible. Akali mid lane is okay. Again, against the mages, it allows her to play a little bit more passive, but she can get caught by a lot of ranged targets, and also sometimes she can lose against other assassins, which can be a little bit difficult. But when you scale with Akali, she can be really good when you scale into the mid and late game. A few AD carries next: Lucian, Akshan, and Corki. I'll talk about them a little bit more in depth in the duo lane section. But yeah, Lucian's still really good in the mid lane. His combos are still really good. His mobility is still really good. The build still works really well for him, and he has a lot of early laning phase pressure. So you can look to roam around the map in the early game to try and get your junglers a little bit of an advantage if you need to. And also you have a lot of solo kill potential. And it's really good against melee champions because you can zone them off CS and you can just keep poking and keep doing a lot of damage. Akshan as well in the mid lane is a lot better than the duo lane. Because with Akshan, You can use his passive to full effect against another another champion in the mid lane, getting a passive. You can also use his swing to full effect as well, as long as the enemy mid laner doesn't have any crowd control. So you can use it to get away to safety or to you know, engage if you want to. And same with Corki as well. Corki has a pretty disgusting build right now, which I'm probably going to go over in a video very soon. Storm Razor, IE, Solari Charge Blade, SS Reaver, really disgusting full crit Corki build. He does a lot of damage. And yeah, he has a lot of carry potential, so I definitely recommend picking him up in the mid lane. And also, he's pretty easy to play. So if you want to play someone in mid lane, I'll definitely recommend picking up Corki. Morgana, I don't think she's as good in the mid lane as the jungle, but she still has a lot of wave clear. She's still really easy to play. She still can carry team fights with Dark Binding and her ultimate, but she's mainly there in the mid lane just to play passive. You're not going to be doing too much in the mid lane. You're just going to be clearing waves, playing passive, and hoping for the best. Fizz is Fizz. You can use your ultimate, try and one-shot someone, but again, it gets countered by stasis, just like Zed. You know, Fizz still has quite a lot of mobility though. But again, if you use your third ability, your dash straight away at the start of team fights, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble because there's not really anywhere else for Fizz to escape. Jason Renekton as well, more of a Baron lane champions, but they can still work in mid lane. Maybe Renekton less so now. I think Renekton does struggle against a lot of mid laners now, a lot of assassins, a lot of mid laners like Karma, for example, that can hurt him really easily. And kind of same with Jace as well. I mean, Jace has the range potential with his range form, also his melee form, but he's just not as popular mid lane now as Baron lane. Then Echo, kind of same as jungle. Echo really struggles in the laning phase. He's super squishy. I realized that when I was playing a few games of him. He's really squishy in the early game. You have to play super passive. You basically can't fight at all as Echo in the early game. You have to make sure you wait, get a few items, and then get into the team fights and use his playmaking potential from his abilities to try and carry team fights. Because in the laning phase, it's basically impossible. He has like so little health that it's just impossible to walk up to minions or do anything. A tier are just champions that are just not really too strong at the moment. You got Aurelion Sol, Brand, and Veigar. Aurelion Sol, not really too good at the moment. Even though Rylai's got buffed, I just still don't think that Rylai's Liandry's is a good build on him. I think it's just best to go full AP, but again, just a champion that doesn't really offer too much. Same with Brand as well. Not really a good champion to play right now. Can get jumped on quite easily by a lot of assassins and a lot of bruisers, and Brand doesn't really have any way to escape that at all. Same with Veigar as well, even though he does have his cage. Again, another champion that's just really easy to dive on top of. They kind of struggle a lot. And kind of same with the other champions as well, you know, Seraphine, Lux, Annie, and also Kayle. So kind of the same situation where it's just really easy for assassins, other mages, you know, other mages outrange them. Assassins can jump onto them. Same with bruisers as well. But you can still carry with these champions. You know, Seraphine has her ultimate. She has a lot of crowd control and also a lot of healing and shielding. And her wave clear is really good. Same with Lux as well. You can get catches off with light binding and you can pretty much one-shot someone. You've been seeing Lux a lot probably in pro play in the duo lane. Not a lot in the mid lane though, because you kind of need that support down in the duo lane with Lux. Then Annie as well still has a lot of one-shot potential, but again, there's just better champions than them at the moment. The same with Kayle as well. You know, Kayle C tier, again, still not that strong. But if you get a few items, you can definitely carry. Now, this is where I take a deep breath, because there are a lot of changes with the duo lane. And one main change because of this is lethal tempo. Lethal tempo is insanely strong right now on a lot of carries, and pretty much all of the top carries right now all run lethal tempo. Kai'Sa, even though she did get a bit of a nerf with Executioner's Calling, you probably saw on yesterday's video, you can still go double BF sword with lethal tempo, and lethal tempo allows her to build more attack damage now, so that means she deals more damage, but she also still has attack speed from lethal tempo. Really good peeling, really good wave clear, just overall a really great champion. Xayah as well, another great champion with lethal tempo. With Xayah, most of the time you build a lot of attack damage, so now you have more attack speed with lethal tempo, which means you can get more feathers out, deal more damage. She still has a self peel, and she's still really strong during the laning phase. Caitlyn, probably the strongest champion in the entire game right now. Actually, no, not entire game. That's a bit of an overstatement. Probably the strongest duo lane champion at the moment. Just really because of her laning phase. Now, laning phase is quite important now in Wild Rift because it does last longer, and you can get an advantage and you can get first tower before that first dragon. And if you do, you'll be insanely strong and you'll have such a big early game gold lead, which is why Caitlyn is really strong. Caitlyn is super safe to play. She has the longest range out of any other AD carry. You can poke a lot during the laning phase. You can win a lot of early game team fights. Just insane champion overall. And like I said, I think she is probably the strongest out of everyone right now in terms of AD carry role, just because of her laning phase. And to be honest, even in the late game, she's really easy to play, and she has all of her traps. She has a nets to escape, and she still does a crap ton of damage in the late game. Jinx with lethal tempo as well, more of a hyper carry. Kind of struggle a little bit in the early phase, the same with Vayne as well. But both these champions with lethal tempo, if you can get a few items, can easily 1 versus 9 games, especially Vayne with her mobility. Also Jinx as well with lethal tempo, really good with the attack speed, because you can get more attack speeds on her rockets, which most of the time you can struggle with rockets, because you're not really shooting out as many at once. But with rocket form, with Jinx and lethal tempo, you can shoot out a bunch of rockets. Vayne, more of a late game champion again. Thing is with Vayne is that you have your silver bolt, so most of the time you're still going to build like Blade of Rune King, Storm Razor, Wit's End, you know, items that are still going to give you attack speed, because Vayne just works so well with attack speeds because of her second ability, dealing true damage. So it's really important to make sure that you get the right build correct for Vayne. Varus has dropped down finally. Varus is not going to be as strong as what he used to be anymore, I feel like. I feel like in pro play, he's probably going to still be really strong just because of how safe he is to play, how much poke he does, and also the ultimate during team fights. But I feel like in solo queue now, these lethal tempo carries are just stronger. I think that's how it is at the moment. Draven, I've moved him up. The reason why I've moved him up again is because laning phase is really important now. Laning phase is a lot longer, and also that means that Draven can get more advantages in the laning phase. Now Draven can struggle a lot when it comes to team fights, when it comes to dropping axes, and when it comes to trying to move around during team fights, but laning phase is where Draven really thrives. And if Draven can get an early game lead in the laning phase, then that means that he can use that to be a big carry during mid and late game team fights. So that's why Draven's moved up for me. Again, you still use Conqueror on Draven. Again, all of these AD carries I'll be doing guides on for all the different builds as well. So don't worry if there's something here, you know, like Ashe, for example. I'm gonna wait till a new skin for her. Yeah, Draven, insanely strong, especially during laning phase. Ezreal, again, more of a situation of, I don't know, with probably Ezreal should move down into A+, maybe. I'm not really too sure. I feel like Ezreal, he's just super safe to play. You can still do a lot of damage as well. The buff to Trinity Force definitely helped him. Laning phase lasting a bit longer does help Ezreal. That means you can try and stack Manamune as quick as possible. And most of the time, you know, for the laning phase extension, it kind of helps a lot of these carries, because most of the time AD carries are more hyperscale champions. Unless you want to play like super aggressive during laning phase, which Draven can do, and Draven can take advantage of that. But other than that, you know, most of these champions could just play super safe in the early laning phases, get a lot of gold, stack up their Manamune if they really want to, and then they can be a really strong late game force, which is why Ezreal has moved up for me. Tristana honestly can move up to S tier. The reason why she's in A+ is because of just how difficult she is to play. Again, kind of the same as what I always say with Tristana. Corki with Conqueror is still the best. I just mentioned in the mid lane. But Storm Razor, i.e. Solari Chargeblade, Essence Reaver is really strong. Lucian, Kraken Slayer doesn't really work. I'm going to do more in-depth video explaining why Kraken Slayer Lucian is just really bad, and kind of explain the numbers and why Conqueror is still better. But make sure you go Conqueror on Lucian. Kraken Slayer is okay. It's like a budget PTA, which is press the attack from PC League. It just doesn't do that much damage. But Conqueror's still really strong on Lucian, and Lucian overall as a carry is still really strong. Karma in the dual lane as well. Again, if you need AP damage, I think Karma's probably the best champion to play. It's really, really good. Really, really strong. Has a lot of wave clear, has a lot of shielding, crowd controlled everything as well. Kind of explained Karma a little bit already. Jhin got a kind of a nerf because of fleet footwork. Jhin doesn't really need the mana healing, and also the healing from minions got nerfed as well. So a little bit of a nerf to fleet footwork for Jhin. And Jhin doesn't make use of lethal tempo, which is why Jhin has moved down the tier just a little bit, because all these lethal tempo champions are just really strong at the moment, and Jhin doesn't deal enough burst damage to be able to burst through all these lethal tempo carries before they stack up. And when they get stacked up to, you know, 6 attacks with lethal tempo, Jhin just dies, which is kind of a problem with Jhin right now. AT, you got some other mages, which I'm not going to go through them exactly because I've kind of explained them all a little bit in the mid lane. But yeah, most of the time with bot lane mages, you only really play them if you have a full AD comp. And even if you have a full AD comp, I would recommend going Corki, because Corki does like 80% magic damage, so he is quite good. Ashe is an interesting one. Now, I honestly think that Ashe could probably move up higher. Now, Ashe lethal tempo is really, really good. I'm going to try a build out on her when new skin comes out. It's like Storm Razor, IE with Mortal Reminder. Standard build now with every single AD carry. I honestly think that Ashe is really good right now. You know, lethal tempo is really strong on her because of her auto attack. She can kite much better now with lethal tempo. Means that she can build a lot more attack damage. You can go for, because you already have the attack speed from lethal tempo, you can go on hit Ashe as well with like Blade Rune King, Runer's Hurricane if you really want to. But I feel like the Storm Razor IE combo might be better, but I'd have to test it out and see how it goes. Again, Akshan kind of explained to him already. Not as strong in the bot lane as mid lane because you can't make full use out of his passive and his dashes. Get more mages and Misfortune. Misfortune is just Misfortune. I don't know. Misfortune doesn't make use of lethal tempo. Misfortune is very weak at the moment. There's so many different builds with her, but she's just very unique in certain situations. You know, if you don't have any champions that can easily dive on top of you, obviously Misfortune doesn't have any mobility at all. If you don't have any assassins or any bruisers that can easily dive on top of you, you can use your third ability and your ultimate with all the slows to do a lot of damage, but most of the time she does struggle quite a lot. And to be honest, most of these mages are a lot better as well, because you know Orianna has wave clear, same with Seraphine, Morgana and Ziggs, and they all have a lot of crowd control and they're all very, very good. And then Senna, you don't want to play Senna as a duo lane. You mainly want to play her fasting or as support, because you don't want to farm with Senna. But yeah, if it's fasting Senna, she's probably like here. Because fasting Senna is really good right now because of Black Cleaver and Divine Sunderer. And last, but by no means least, is the beloved support role. And there's only one thing to say about support role, is that enchanters are broken. And the only reason why enchanters are broken at the moment is because of lethal tempo, which is why Karma and Yuumi are at the top of my tier list. Yeah, I mean, enchanters overall right now are really, really strong with healing and shielding. Ardent Sensor is an insanely strong item right now with lethal tempo, because getting the extra attack speed so you can get lethal tempo quicker and you can just get more damage onto your AD carries, because as you can see on the dual lane, the meta is Kai'Sa, Xayah, Caitlyn, Jinx, Vayne, Draven, Varus, Ezreal. What do you want with most of these carries? Healing. What do you also want? Ardent Sensor, which is why all of these Ardent Sensor supports are completely busted right now. Yeah, Karma offers the same purpose as like mid and duo lane. Won't be able to do as much damage, but when you go full support Karma, her shields are really strong. Again, she has the crowd control and everything as well. Yuumi is disgustingly broken. This champion needs to just be deleted from the game. I still don't know why they added Yuumi in the first place to the game. Apparently she was like one of the most requested champions or something. I call bullshit. I don't know. This champion is just so annoying to deal with. I mean, if you're against the Yuumi, she just has so much healing, so much shielding. Even in solo queue now, I mean, I said before that Yuumi before was like S tier because maybe you can't carry with her in the solo queue, but to be honest, with Yuumi, you can just go full AP now and you can just be a secondary carry in the bot lane. You don't even need to go support items. You can just go full AP Yuumi, do the most damage in the game, and easily carry. Talking about other Ardent supports, Lulu's still really strong with all of her shielding and healing, and she has a lot of movement speed. She can give a lot of health, but I just don't think she's as strong as Yuumi and Karma. Same with Nami and Janna. Nami's more of like an engaging enchanter support. She has a lot of ways to engage with her bubble, with her wave as well, but also that's really good for disengaging as well at the same time. I think Nami's laning phase is also very good. Probably has the best laning phase out of any enchanter, maybe except for Karma, but because of Nami with the second ability, she's really, really strong. She can bounce off healing and damage. Janna's more of a self pill, more of a peeling support. If you're against a lot of bruisers, then Janna can do really well with tornadoes, with her ultimate. Excuse me, with her slows and her shielding as well. Her laning phase is okay. It's kind of meh, but probably one of the weakest actually in terms of the enchanters. But she's really good in terms of peeling. Now, speaking of other supports that are not enchanters, Thresh still one of the best tank supports in the game right now. Has a lot of engage and also has a lot of disengage as well with Lantern. I think Lantern's really good for these non-mobile AD carries like Jinx, Varus, Xayah even sometimes. You know, all these champions that don't have a lot of mobility and want to try and escape. Thresh, you can just sit back, use your Lantern, then get away to safety really easily. But at the same time, you can also use Lantern aggressively with your hook, with your flay, with your ultimate as well. Thresh is just a great champion overall. I mean, Thresh just does everything that you want to in solo queue, which is why he's really good. Rakan as well. Rakan's really, really good. I'm actually surprised how much damage Rakan can do. I mean, the build is Rod of Ages, yeah, like Rod of Ages, Death Cap, Ardent, and then it's a full tank. Sometimes you can swap around Ardent and Rabadon's Death Cap if you want to. But to be honest with you, Rakan just does an absolute bucket ton of damage with Electrocute as well. So a really, really strong champion at the moment, has a lot of good disengage. It means his shielding is also stronger as well because you're building Rod of Ages, Ardent, and Death Cap. Obviously, as I mentioned already, Ardent is also completely broken. And Alistar, even though he does struggle a lot in the laning phase, with Alistar, you basically just want to get out of laning phase as soon as possible. Obviously, laning phase is a bit extended, but with Alistar, you just want to roam as much as possible. When he roams, when he gets into these little skirmishes, this is where he can really thrive. Headbutt Pulverize, use your ultimate as well. Really, really strong tank. Doesn't really do the same as what Thresh does, but he's still really strong overall. Onto A tier, Brom's fallen out a little bit just because of, you know, Brom not really being able to do too much. Brom is probably one of the worst supports against enchanters right now, just because you don't have anything to offer. You don't have any full engage potential. Whereas Alistar, you know, with Alistar, when you get like level 2, you can headbutt, pulverize, and enchant and do a lot of damage. Brom doesn't have that. Brom, you have to dash to a minion, try and land your Q. All your Q does is a little bit of a slow. That's it to enchanters. I mean, enchanters can easily bully out Brom out the lane. Brom can't do anything at all. When it gets to team fights, he's okay for peeling, but to be honest, I'd rather have a Janna instead for peeling supports, just because Ardent Sensor is so strong right now. But Brom, I really don't think is that strong. Same with like Galio and Leona as well. Again, Leona has the hard engage with like Thresh, Alistar, and Rakan that can kind of bully out these enchanters. The same with Galio as well. He has the dash with his taunt. With Leona, she has her ultimate and also her Zenith Blade, I think it's called, her third ability, which is this hard engage that you really need against enchanters. But again, they're just going to struggle a little bit during the laning phase. But both really, really good champions. Again, Galio, you can use his ultimate to great effect to roam around the map as well. Leona is really good for single target damage and single target crowd control. Still really good. Morgana's still really good as well with her Dark Binding or with her ultimate. Her Black Shield is really, really strong on AD carries. Again, especially in mobile AD carries, she can be really, really strong for that. That is also very, very good. Onto A tier. Sona, I might be underrating a little bit too much. Sona, there was a little bit of a change to her in this patch. They nerfed her healing, but honestly, her shielding is insanely strong right now. Her shielding can go up to 5 champions, and that shielding can be really, really strong. So Sona might be underrated a little bit, but it's just the struggle of getting out of laning phase with Sona, which is kind of the hard part about her. You need to get out of laning phase first, and then you'll be completely fine. But it's just getting out of laning phase, which is the hard part. Senna, kind of the same thing. You want to try and stack as many souls as possible. She doesn't really offer too much, but if you want to be like a carry for your team, if you don't really trust your team, then you can go Senna as a support. You can build like either AD or tanky, whatever you want to build. It doesn't really matter what you want to build with Senna, to be fair. You can just be like a secondary carry, but she can also be really good at support as well with all the shielding and healing that she can. And Seraphine has her ultimate, has a lot of wave clear, and I think it's just better than all of these other supports. And all these other supports are kind of unique niche supports, to be fair. Set is very unique, has a lot of hard engage, same with Shen as well. I think Set is really good also for disengage. If you're against Rakan, for example, if the Rakan's about to ultimate, then you can use your Set ultimate for that disengage, which means that Rakan can't jump onto your backline. Set's also pretty good during laning phase as well, because he has a lot of self-heal and also a lot of shielding, which can be really strong. Shen, really good for his ultimate. You can struggle a little bit in early laning phases if you can't land your taunt. Other than that, he's still really good. Lux is just Lux, doesn't get really used as support anymore. Soraka, even though she did get a buff, I still think she's not really a strong enchanter. Because Executioner's Calling, even though the AD got reduced, the Grievous Wounds didn't get reduced. So now Executioner's Calling is a cheaper item, even though they're not going to do as much damage. But it means that they can just buy Executioner's Calling first item, and then basically Soraka just becomes useless because her healing is not going to be that important. Now Blitzcrank's really useless, and so is Amumu, and then that's it. That's everything for the tier list. Not really much to say about them two champions. Blitzcrank, if you land your hook, happy days. If you don't, then you're screwed. And Amumu, again, is just another niche champion that you can play in the support role. But that's pretty much everything. If you don't know, this website is Wild Rift Fire, as I mentioned at the start of the video. This is where you can find all the champion guides, everything up to date as well, from Baron, Jungle, Mid, and I also have support guides on there for Nautilus and Pike for when they get released next month, so you can kind of have a look and see what builds and see what you think about the new builds. But yeah, this is a website I work on with the guys at Mobifire, really nice people. So make sure you check out Mobifire and all their other websites as well. But yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed the video, hopefully you enjoyed the tier list. Thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, take care of yourselves I'll see you all in the next Wild Rift video. Peace.